Hi everybody, welcome once again to another episode of Speedway Gladiators. Speedway from the Robertson Prestige International Speedway. Coming up in this program, we look at highlights from last weekend, which featured the Stockcar Dash for cash. Ian Roberts from the Kairanga Lions joins us. We look at how you put on a fireworks display and how to put on pardon the expression, a real cracker. Emma Murray is joining us and we talk about her history in sidecars, what happened to her last year and what her future plans are. And we look back to last season's Tarrant Sidecar Memorial. We also, of course, check out the updated Travel Manager's season points. Well, first up in this program, we look at the highlights from last weekend. It features the Stockcar Dash for cash. It went down to the last 100 metres.
It was a fast night of racing in the adult mini stocks as the 94p Jack Bainan worked his way through the field, moving past 347p Dave Bainan and closing in on the 7v Devon Wilson for position. John O'Moldy set the early pace with consistent 21 second lap times, while 35p Luke Harris, 69p Stephen Mann and 81s Kurt Gardner stayed in touch. Close battle between the 94p Jack Bainan and 7v Devon Wilson saw 33p John O'Moldy take the flag ahead of 81s Kurt Gardner, and Jack Bainan in that 94, he rocketed up into the third spot. Heat 2 saw 81s Kurt Gardner off to a strong start, leading from 66p Colton Baggery with 69p Steve Mann and 7v Devon Wilson giving chase. 66p Colton Baggery, he had a bit of a wheelguard issue that hindered some pace. It was 81s Kurt Gardner who stayed composed to secure Heat 2 win from 69p Stephen Mann and 7v of Devon Wilson. In the final race, it was Heat 1 and Heat 2 winners, John O'Moldy, Kurt Gardner, they went wheel to wheel right to the end. 77p Shane McEwen and 69p Stephen Mann, they battled out close behind as the 7v Devon Wilson, he clipped the wall bringing out the reds. On that restart, 33p John O'Moldy held off the 81s Kurt Gardner to take the feature win, with 69p Stephen Mann and 7v Devon Wilson rounding out the top four, wrapping up a fast competitive night for the adult mini stocks. The Midgets hit the clay for their first meeting of the season at the Robertson Prestige International Speedway, and it was 74v Ben Hoos who led them away from the front row. V Brent Hoos charged hard early before pulling to the infield, leaving 6M Luke McClymont, 68p Nick Davey to give chase. 41p Shane Dewar, 95k Mitch Fabish and 93p Carl McGill, they ran close behind, while 9v Scott Castleton and 5k Tyler Robbins battled in the mid-pack. At halfway through the race though, 6M Luke McClymont, he found the grip right on that top line, took command, and he went on to win the first heat ahead of 74v Ben Hoos and 68p Nick Davey. 95k Mitch Fabish, 41p Shane Dewar. These two saw the 9k of Michael Kendall make a quick start over stablemate 5k Tyler Robbins with 95k, that's right, the Kiki trio there, Mitch Fabish and Carl McGill in the 93p close behind. Shane Dewar, 41p, he climbed into third place as once again the 12v Brent Hoos, he was out of the race onto the infield. Out in front though, 9k Michael Kendall, he stayed composed to take the win from the 95k of Mitch Fabish. 41p of Shane Dewar in third, followed home by 5k Tyler Robbins, 93p Carl McGill and 68p Nick Davey. In the feature, it was 95k Mitch Fabish that got the jump and he never looked back. 41p Shane Dewar ran a solid second, while the 6M of Luke McClymont, 9k Michael Kendall, they fought over the third and fourth spots. Behind them, 74v Ben Hoos, 5k Tyler Robbins and 93p Carl McGill, they diced for the minors, but at the flag, 95k Mitch Fabish took a dominant feature win from the 41p of Shane Dewar and the 6M of Luke McClymont, hotly followed by the 9k of Michael Kendall. 74v Ben Hoos and 5k Tyler Robbins rounding out that top six, wrapping up a strong opening night of midget racing in Palmerston North. The Saloons fired up for their first run of the new season at the Robertson Prestige International Speedway, and 81p John O'Mason made a strong start ahead of 7p Clayton Moore and 6p Ben Jones. 29p Rachel Bradbury and 57p Calvin Honore ran close, while 37p Paul Hosking, 7g Rodney McIndoe and 23s Mike Adamson looked for a way forward. Mid-race contact saw the 29p Rachel Bradbury spun and the 37p of Paul Hosking ending up in the wall, bringing out the yellows. On the restart, 81p John O'Mason, he kept his composure, kept control, and he took the win ahead of 7p Clayton Moore, 6p Ben Jones, 57p Calvin Honore, and 29p Rachel Bradbury in the fifth spot. Race 2 saw 23s Mike Adamson lead early from 242p Ashley King, with 57p Calvin Honore and 7g Rodney McIndoe right in behind. 24p Danny Halcrow, 8p Mike Denham, and 7p Clayton Moore, they battled mid-pack. 29p of Rachel Rachel Bradbury brought the caution out just as the 242p Ashley King took over the lead with a great outside pass on Mike Adamson. With the caution coming out though, Adamson was reinstated with the lead, going back to the ELS counting on the previous lap, and he held off a very hard charging once again 242 Ashley King to take the win from the 242, followed by 57p Calvin Honore, 7G Rodney McIndoe, 7p Clayton Moore, and 8p Mike Denham rounding out that top 6. In the feature, it was a case of the 2 green 7s off the front row. 7G Rodney McIndoe, he controlled the pace from the drop of the green, chased by the 7p of Clayton Moore and 57p Calvin Honore. 81p John O'Mason, 23s Mike Adamson, they fought for those next few positions with 24p Danny Halcrow and 4p Stu Sowry in pursuit. The late yellow for our rookie of the field, 17p Ella Hislop in turn 1. That didn't change the outcome, with the 7G Rodney McIndoe taking a commanding lead on the restart, holding on for that feature win ahead of the 7p Clayton Moore, 57p Calvin Honore, 81p John O'Mason and 23s Mike Adamson rounding the top 6 and wrapping up a smooth and competitive night for Saloons in Palmerston North. Sidecars got their season underway at the Robertson Prestige International Speedway, and in the first round, first heat, it was 32p Sam Carter and Martin Domper led from start to finish, looking like an exciting season for the 13p bike. Willie Jensen and Kieran Pitcher coming home in second, while 73p Barry Smith, Blair Meyer reigned strong to finish third, ahead of 63p Nick Peterson and Tiaratia Elliott. In the second heat of round 1, it was 89p Wayne and Max Lett. They exploded off the line, took control early. 17p Tony Hislop and Aidan Foothead were quick to settle into the second spot, while the 5p Wingnut and Sam McNaughton impressed with a high line charge, almost getting that second spot, but having to settle for third. So at the line, it was Wayne and Max on the 89p bike, proving too strong, taking the win from 17p of Horse and Aidan. 5p of Wingnut and McNaughton in third. Unfortunate, the 8p bike retiring midway through the race. First race of round 2, and it was a 17 bike of Horse and Aidan. They made a brilliant start for a crowd-pleasing win in the end. They were nice and clear of the 21p bike of Glenn Murray and Josh Henderson, while it was Smith and Meyer on the 73 bike. They rounded out the top 3. In Heat 2, Wayne and Max on the 89p aired out from the start to take yet another commanding win from the 13p of Willie Jensen, Kieran Pitcher, and it was Wingnut and McNaughton on the 5 bike. They take out the third spot. For the feature, we brought the remaining bikes together. 17p of Horse and Aidan, they led early. They were chased down by a fast charging 89p Wayne and Max led, of course, with the 73 Smith and Meyer, and the 13p of Willie and Kieran close behind. Was on the final lap though, where the 89p found the grip on that high line just enough to edge past the 17p for a win by just a tenth of a second at the flag, wrapping up some fast, thrilling, and of course again exhilarating sidecar racing. It was a second appearance of the season for the stock cars at the Robertson Prestige International Speedway, and the racing was fast and tidy all night. For Group 1, in Heat 1, it was the debut car of the 126G Asher Rees, leading it from start to finish ahead of 86p Beau McLeod and 23p Ricky Lee Cowrie, while the 135p Jaden Hall drove strongly into 4th, and a returning driver, 54p Bevan Humphrey, impressed for a 5th spot after more than a decade away from the class. Heat 2 saw 226p Liam Metcalf take command early on, but 86p Beau McLeod slipped through on the final lap after a bit of hesitation from the 226p. 23p Ricky Lee Cowrie, once again, she showed some great pace to finish up in 3rd, with the 126G Asher Rees keeping the pressure on for 4th. Heat 3, it was the 135p Jaden Hall making the perfect start and maintaining that lead from the green to the checker, finishing ahead of the ever-improving 91p Wade McNabb and what was Mr. Consistent dialing in the Newcastle 126G Asher Rees in 3rd. For Group 2, Heat 1 then took the track, and it was Josh Mulcahy in the 48p setting a steady pace from 16p Wayne Verco and 66p Shelby Whitaker. The newly registered 133p Tyler Walker and 134p Rebecca Barr right in behind for a smooth, consistent run. They settled to be your top 5. Group 2, Heat 2 went the way of the 172p Daniel Burmeister, holding off the hard-charging 133p Tyler Walker and 48p Josh Mulcahy. They were followed across the line by 65p Blake Barnett and 134p Rebecca Barr. In the final Group 2 race of the night went the way of the 134p Rebecca Barr. She got the jump and never looked back, managing the pace to perfection to finish ahead of the 172p Daniel Burmeister, 48p Josh Mulcahy and 133p Tyler Walker Firework are the usual suspects at the top to round out 6 clean competitive heats of qualifying, the second outing of the stock cars at the Robertson Prestige International Speedway. The feature race for the stock cars was the Dash for Cash, and a very unique elimination event that kept the pressure on high from the very first green. In stage 1, 19 cars lined up with competing over 5 laps to find the top 16. It was 126G Asher Rees straight to the lead ahead of the 48P of Josh Mulcahy and 172 Daniel Burmeister. Behind them, 134P Rebecca Barr and 226P traded positions early. Qualifying favourite 23P Ricky Lee Carey, she had some problems and slipped to the back of the pack. The mid-pack rookie driver 254P Steve Horn found himself under pressure from 34P Rob Mason, who managed to muscle through on the inside. 126G Asher Rees, he looked comfortable out of front, keeping the laps consistent as the field began to thin. Sally Barr, she was on the bubble for quite some time, just could not hold on when she went into the wall in turn 3 as the white flag came out. But at the line, Asher Rees took the win in the first round, followed home by Josh Mulcahy, Rebecca Barr and Daniel Burmeister. Ricky Lee Carey, Sally Barr, William Pollock were the first 3 drivers to be eliminated. In stage 2, the remaining 16 cars gridded up for another 5-lap dash, and once again, Asher Rees, he made the best of the start, chased down by the 134P Rebecca Barr. Time the McNabb boys have inserted themselves into the fray as well. 9P was Zion McNabb, 91P Wade McNabb, both running side by side through the first couple of corners. At the back, the 16P Wayne Verco was tussling out with the 48P Josh Mulcahy and 172P Daniel Burmeister. Around halfway, the 91P Wade McNabb, he went to work, he slid past that 134P of Rebecca Barr, moved into second behind Rees. Josh Mulcahy, he continued his steady run, got into that 4th spot with the 172P of Daniel Burmeister tucked in behind. Asher Rees, he once again took the win with 91P Wade McNabb and 134P Rebecca Barr in 3rd. That set the all-important grid for the top 6 shootout. 126G off pole, Asher Rees. 91P Wade McNabb to his outside. On the inside of row 2 it was the 134P Rebecca Barr, and to her outside 48P Josh Mulcahy. From row 3, the 172P Daniel Burmeister and 9P Zion McNabb. They were your top 6 advancing. The 2 promoted choices added to the rear of the field, and they being the 72P of Tony Norman and the 212V of Blair Reeves-Smith, joining in for that short, sharp 5-lap final, winner take all. And when the lights went green, it was 126G Asher Rees. He got away perfectly from pole with 134P Rebecca Barr right on his bumper and 91P Wade McNabb pressing hard in 3rd. Tony Norman, he ran wide early in the piece and ended up on the infield, while 9P Zion McNabb and 172P Daniel Burmeister settled into a mid-pack battle. Out in front, Asher Rees, he looked comfortable and untouchable until the 91P Wade McNabb, he found some good traction down low, sliding into second and closing in fast. Rebecca Barr held on to 3rd until a flat tyre saw her pull to the infield, handing that position to the 172P of Daniel Burmeister. With 2 laps to run, Wade McNabb closed right in on Asher Rees, searching for a gap on the inside. And coming to the white flag, Rees ran a tight defensive line, but McNabb wasn't done. The 2 ran side by side down the back straight, McNabb pushing Asher to the wall. Then the 172P Daniel Burmeister saw an opportunity, made his move, put the bumper into the 126G, pushing both the 126G and 91P out wide, managed to tuck underneath and powered past both Rees and McNabb to take victory at the line by half a car length. Behind him in the 2nd spot was the 91P of Wade McNabb. 3rd place to Asher Rees. 4th was Josh Mulcahy. Zion McNabb and the 9P, our only other finisher. The crowd loved it. A smart, patient drive from 172P of Burmeister, reading the moment perfectly and taking full advantage of the 2 leaders duel out in front. After a night of constant eliminations and strategy, he was the man that took the checkered flag and won the Dash for Cash $750 winner take all at the Robertson Prestige International Speedway.
Had he put on a great fireworks display? Well, Kairanga Lions know how to do it, and we caught up with Ian Roberts, Kairanga Lions fireworks specialist, to tell us all about it. Well, if points are awarded to fireworks displays over the season, I reckon the Kairanga Lions would probably end up winners at the end of the season. We've managed to get hold of Ian Roberts from the Kairanga Lions, and as you know, the Kairanga Lions have been doing fireworks here for quite some time. Ian, where did it start for the Kairanga Lions? How far back, and how did it happen?
Well, it started in the 1970s with some members of the club putting on domestic fireworks at the local school. The families would gather together and have fireworks, just shop bought stuff. and then it grew from that to an annual event, and then a couple of the club became interested and made contact with commercial suppliers, and we went into the commercial field.
So you can't just pick up the phone and call a commercial seller and make an order. You probably have to be checked out these days with health and safety. What are your considerations?
In the 1970s, that's exactly what we did. We rang up a supplier, and it was just sent, I guess, by rail at that stage. But currently now it's a lot tighter, and we have to plan displays, establish a budget, and order from our supplier. And we also have to meet compliance requirements for shows in this arena. We have to have a written agreement with the fire service and obtain permission from the civil aviation for a notice to airmen in case we infringe airspace.
And I suppose your members of the club have to be licensed themselves as
The
commercial
organisers
operators?
of each display are, yes.
Yep.
We hold compliance certificates and for grades of fireworks. We used to have 6 in the club, we now only have 3.
Oh, okay.
It's getting harder to get, and it takes a lot of time.
For example, you're looking at doing a fireworks display here. What considerations, safety-wise, do you have to look at?
Well, we have to specify all of the distances on the site plan and where we're going to let them off, and that all goes to our compliance person. And on the night, we have to make sure that we adhere to those very strict rules, which is why the area is cleared of people just before the display.
And vehicles, yes.
And vehicles. And I've got to keep an eye on our crew. We'll wear safety gear. There's a checklist of things that we have to make sure we've got. And after that, it's a bit of common sense, I hope.
And how do you work it out? And do you have it in your mind what it's going to look like while it's happening?
Fireworks displays are primarily worked from what the person is prepared to pay for them. And once we have a budget, we work out what the show looks like and what we can do in the venue. For example, this venue, there's a restriction on the size of star shells, obviously, because we can't get the clearances. But we know from experience what does what.
What would be the cost for, say, the biggest firework that you would ever use in a display?
Well, naturally, that depends on the size. For example, the star shells that we fire up in the air and explode and make the patterns in the sky. Here we can only use 3-inch ones. In bigger displays, I'm licensed to go up to 8-inch star shells, and those are currently running out at about $350 each.
And how long do they go for?
Well, they go up in the air for 3 seconds and explode, and maybe last for 3 seconds.
So when you are going to do a display, and do you work it out per minute?
No, but if anyone's thinking of fireworks, it's about $1,500 per minute.
Wow, that's
for
an
a
average.
display.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, when you're thinking about you're going to do a 5-minute display, for example, what goes first, what goes next, and what do you end up with often on a display?
Oh yeah, no, it's all planned and choreographed.
So when you're doing a display, do you know what you start with?
Kind of would be the right answer.
Yeah, sort of.
Yeah, it depends on the size of the display.
Yeah.
For small displays, yes, we have a sequence, and we've planned that with the crew beforehand.
Yep.
And we know what gets fired first, and we go from there. For big displays, there's a firing pattern all written down, and we follow that. And the person who's coordinating the display will stop that and start ground display. For example, here we often fire stuff by hand. So it's a question of pausing the display and signalling to the lighter, and they'll light stuff.
So when you're buying the fireworks, I mean, you were telling me earlier there is a manufacturer in New Zealand, which I didn't know. I just assumed most of them would have come out of China.
Well, we get a catalogue from our supplier each year, and he'll point out any new stuff that he's got and what it does. But most of all, it's just buying from experience of what the things do.
So the Kairanga Lions have been doing it for some time. I'm assuming you're going to continue to do it, as long as you've got members that are keen to be involved.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
yeah, that's right. It's been a great earner for the club. On each major display we have a margin that we put in, but we don't charge for our time.
Yep.
And the margin goes back into charity and into the community.
The thing about it is, as you would have noticed here, the nights that we have the fireworks, we have a great crowd. The kids love it.
They do, yeah. That's something we've noticed. One of the pleasures we get out of it is not what we make out of it, but at the end of each show, whether it's here or anywhere else, we just take our earmuffs off and we say to new members, just stand still for a minute. And you hear the crowd spontaneously clapping. And
Well done to the Kairanga Lions. You guys always put on a super display. And we look for many more here at the Robertson Prestige International Speedway.
Thank you very much for supporting us.
Ian Roberts, he's from the Kairanga Lions. They put on fantastic displays. And if you're going to be here very shortly, things may happen. Things could explode. And, of course, the guys will come back another night, I think, later on in the season as well. Emma Murray was a swinger on a sidecar last season. Unfortunately, she had a pretty serious accident. We caught up with Emma to find out how she's recovering and what her future plans are as far as Speedway are concerned. Well, I've got a very special guest on the Speedway Gladiator show. She was on the sidecar, 21, I believe, last season. Had a bit of an accident, but we are going to talk about that just a little bit later on. Emma Murray. Emma, let's go back to your very, very first inkling that you might want to be a swinger on a sidecar.
I guess usual story of a Speedway kid. Your parents do it for generations. Sort of born into the sport. My dad started sidecars and I think it was 1986. Dad actually wouldn't let me for years because he kept saying, no, you're too small, all that jazz.
Yes.
And he wouldn't put me on till I was about 19. He took me out with the intention to scare me. And we come back in and I said, cool, I'm getting my license next year. So my very first season, I think that was 2010, was a spare part for a season and jumped on with a couple of bikes here and there. That was out of Rosebank in Auckland.
Yes.
And then the next season I got a full-time swing for Steve Kronicki, that was out of Auckland. We did about 3 seasons together. Then obviously got a little bit older, had a child, so that put me on the sidelines for a couple of years. And then Dad was still racing. Him and his swinger had sort of parted ways, and he sort of twisted my arm to get back on with him, I suppose. By that point I was a little bit older and a bit more sensible. So.
And then you came to Palmy?
Yeah, I came to Palmy. So my partner is Ropes off the 96P. And we moved back here obviously when we got pregnant. And Dad was living back down here then as well. So we sort of raced out of Palmy from then on.
Okay.
I have had a couple of offs. I think there was a season there where we crashed every weekend.
What?
But that was, minor ones.
Yeah.
Spin ups and rollovers and but I think you got to have a little bit of grit, get back up, hop on the horse again.
Let's have a little look at last season. Absolutely normal night. Nothing spectacular.
No.
You were in the race, in the heat. You got down to turn 1, and what do you remember after that?
I know we come around the corner, like you said, around what is our turn 1, and we were coming sort of midway through the corner. I can remember the 96P bike being in front of us, and he spun up towards the infield, and I can remember seeing the underside of the bike and thinking at the time, oh crap, poor YY, there goes them. And then nothing until being wheeled into ED that night. I start kicking back in there.
So give us a little bit of an idea of what you want to tell us about the injuries. You broke a few bits.
So I tried to just get it all over in one go, I think. I did about 24 bones between my shoulders and my waist. There were multiple vertebrae in various different categories. There were a couple of burst, a couple of compressed, a couple of just cracked. I think it was 8 ribs on one side of my rib cage and another 4 on the other side. I did my collarbone and my scapula of the right shoulder. So this arm was basically just hanging on by the connective tissue. And the entire impact, the initial impact, was straight to the top of my head, which the helmet took a bit of a hiding, but it did its job properly.
But you're feeling what now? You're feeling don't have the pains anymore. You're coming out of that.
Oh, there's quite a lot of niggles going on.
Twinges.
Yeah. I think that'll just be what it is now, like bone wise.
You've probably had the odd twinge since it happened. And of course, are we getting on about a year since it happened, or 10 months or something like that?
About 10 months, yeah, it was the end of January.
Yeah.
So.
What are the family saying?
Well, to be fair, we did have that discussion.
I'm sure you did.
Yep. I think at the time, if the accident had been something that Dad had done wrong or, was our fault, I think he was pretty happy to hang the helmet up then.
Yep.
He was done with it.
Yeah.
But we kind of talked him out of that. It was one of those freak accidents. No one was really at fault.
Yep.
Yeah. And we thought, keep doing it.
I've got to ask you the obvious question. You've thought about whether you're going to get back on a bike or not after what happened to you?
So again, it's one of those things. I know I've had plenty of crashes before. That one just really did mess me up. I guess you got to weigh up. Like, I am a mother now, and all the effects that go on from that, and not being able to go to work and all those sorts of things.
Sure.
You get a bit more sensible as you get older, I suppose. I also am of the opinion you just pull your socks up and get on with it, and get back on the horse. So I would like to get back on, whether it's just for a practice couple of laps at have a go day or something. Just to finish on a good note. I don't want to be retired out this way. There's been a few seasons there where I've been sort of shoulder tapped and given the old nudge to think about getting into the SNZ side of things, in terms of the sidecars mostly.
Oh, I think you'd be fantastic.
Yeah,
I
start
think you
doing a
should.
referee
I seriously,
unit maybe.
I seriously think you should. So
Could
you
be
haven't
something
made your
to look
final
at.
decision, but you
Not
think
yet.
you might just have a couple of laps, but you're feeling nah.
Yeah, right now I think I'm quite happy to. I think I'm done. Yeah,
If you worked for McDonald's, they would call it a McNasty.
it was a
wouldn't
McNasty.
It was
Yes.
a McNasty.
Yeah.
But you're on the mend. You're looking great, I've got to say. And thank you for your time. Thank you for telling us about your experience as a swinger. And we look forward to the day when you've got an official jacket on and you're putting your experience to use in a fantastic way. So thanks for your time and all the very best.
Not a problem. Thank you very much for having me.
Emma came down to talk to us about her swinging days, her accident, and it was lovely to see her. She's looking an absolute picture, and I'm certainly looking forward to seeing her doing some official work. With all that experience and all that knowledge, she'll be fantastic. The Ray Tarrant Sidecar Memorial attracts sidecar teams from all around the country. Always a biggie. Let's look back and look at last season's Ray Tarrant and see how that turned out.
The starter looks happy, raises his arms, the engine revs will come up. Let's go racing. Looks like a good start from gate 2. A brilliant start for the 89 bike. Someone's flying up around the outside. I think that's the Wanganui 34. Your top qualifiers are back there in third. Then it's the 17 and the 27 crew out the back. Wow, what a start for the 89. Wayne and Max Lett. Have they saved the best till last? Second place for Aaron Rose and Sturge on the 34 bike. Third place trying to make something work on the track like they have done in qualifying with those brilliant passes. The 26 of Lincoln and Beaver just stuck back there in third place. They'll be disappointed if that's what they get out of the title. Stretching away now, Wayne and Max Lett. 1 lap to go. Still a battle on for second and third. As they come through the final turn. It took a good start, I said it would. And the 89 bike, Wayne and Max Lett take the title. Run for second and third. That was so close. But it still was a second for the 34V of Aaron Rose and Nigel Sturgeon, who held on by the narrowest of margins. The swing has fallen off up there at turn 4.
Welcome back to the Robertson Prestige International Speedway, week 2 of the Travel Managers Season Points Chase. Each week the points are rewarded to the top 6 drivers in every race, so every position counts when it comes to climbing the leaderboard. Let's start with stock cars, now into their second week of points. Leading the way is 172p Daniel Burmeister on 39 points, followed by 48p Josh Mulcahy on 35 and 134p Rebecca Barr close behind on 28. In the Saloon, 7p Clayton Moore takes the early lead on 17 points. 7G Rodney McIndoe sits second with 16, and 57p Calvin Honoré rounds out the top 3 on 15. For the Midgets, 95k Mitch Fabish set the pace with 20 points, while 6M Luke McClement and 41p Shane Dewar share 15 each. Over to the sidecars, where the new season's points has started strong. 89p Wayne and Maxlett lead with 24 points. 17p Tony Hislop and Aidan Foothead sit second on 21. And 13p Willie Jensen and Kieran Pitcher round out the top 3 on 16. And finally, the adult mini stocks, 33p John O'Moley and 81s Kirk Gardner are tied on 18 points, with 7v Devon Wilson close behind on 15. That wraps up week 2 of the Travel Managers Season Points Chase here at the Robertson Prestige International Speedway. That's Speedway Gladiators for another week. I hope you enjoyed it. We look forward to seeing you back same time next week. Have a great week.